You're standing on that lot right now, aren't you? Keys in your hand, that new truck smell pulling you in, the salesman grinning like you're already family. Stop. Before you sign a single line, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. Some of the most trusted trucks in America are quietly destroying wallets from Texas to Ohio, and the failures I'm talking about don't show up until the payments are locked in and the warranty's gone. I've spent decades under these things. I've watched the same trucks limp into my bay on a flatbed, the same engines grenaded, the same owners standing there sick to their stomachs asking how nobody warned them. I remember a fella rolling in a low-mileage half-ton, engine ticking like a broken clock, handing me a repair estimate that cost more than his down payment. That was the day I stopped trusting the badge on the tailgate. So stick with me, because at the very end I'm going to give you the one truck that isn't on any billboard, the engine code that outlasts everything else on the road, backed by a recall that involved over 100,000 vehicles that most buyers never even heard about. This matters whether you're buying new, buying used, or already sitting in the driveway with one of these. Let's count them down, bad to catastrophic. Let me start with the one everybody thinks is bulletproof, because that reputation is exactly what makes it dangerous. There's a full-size half-ton pickup sold by the millions with a 5.3-liter V8 that folks swear by. And on paper they should. But somewhere around the 2014 through 2019 model years, that engine picked up a nasty habit that I see almost every single week. It's the cylinder deactivation system. The engineers wanted better fuel economy, so they built a system that shuts off 4 of the 8 cylinders when you're cruising. Sounds smart. In practice, it eats oil. I've had trucks come in with barely 60,000 miles on the clock, burning a quart every 700 miles. The owner has no idea because the low oil light doesn't come on until the damage is already done. Then the lifters on those deactivating cylinders start to collapse, the camshaft gets chewed up, and now you're looking at a repair bill between $3,000 and $4,500. Here's what the dealership never tells you. There's a technical service bulletin on this exact oil consumption problem. That means the manufacturer knew. They documented it internally, quietly, while the commercials kept showing that truck towing a trailer up a mountain like it would live forever. So what do? If you're shopping used, pop the hood and pull the dipstick even if the seller swears it's full. Look at the color, smell it for burnt oil, and ask for every service record you can get. Better yet, look for the versions of this truck with the plain V8 that doesn't have cylinder deactivation, or find one where a previous owner already had the lifters replaced under warranty. Walk away from any half-ton where the oil is a quart low and the seller shrugs. That one's just expensive, but it gets so much worse from here because the next truck doesn't just cost you money, it leaves you stranded. Now let me talk about the diesel dream, the one every hard-working guy convinces himself he needs. There's a heavy-duty pickup from the mid-2000s, roughly 2003 through 2007, running a 6.0-liter diesel that has a reputation so bad, mechanics gave it a nickname you can't say in church. On the surface, it's a monster. Big torque, big tow rating, the truck that's supposed to run to 300,000 miles. But this engine has 4 separate failure points that all seem to hit at once. The head bolts stretch and let the head gaskets go. The oil cooler clogs, the exhaust gas recirculation cooler cracks, and the fuel injectors fail one after another. I've pulled the cab clean off the frame just to get at the heads on these, and that labor alone will make your eyes water. To make one of these actually reliable, guys spend between $6,000 and $9,000 on what they call bulletproofing. That's studding the head, upgrading the oil cooler, deleting or fixing the recirculation cooler, $9,000 to make a used diesel trustworthy. Let that sink in. I had a customer, a good man, a contractor who bought one of these because he thought a diesel meant peace of mind. Within 8 months, he was towing it to me twice. The second time, coolant was pouring into the oil and the whole engine was junk. He'd spent his savings on a truck that betrayed him before the first winter was over. If you see one of these cheap, and they are cheap, that low price is a warning, not a deal. Ask directly if it's been bulletproofed and demand-proof. No paperwork, no sale. There's a later, larger diesel from the same maker that fixed most of this, but the 6.0 from that era is a gamble I wouldn't take with your money. That truck strands you, but at least you saw it coming. The next one fools you completely because it fails at exactly the moment you feel safest. Somebody profited from you not knowing this, and I want you to start feeling that because it's about to get personal. Let me tell you about the twin-turbo half-tons. Over the last decade, a lot of makers ditched the big, simple V8 and went to smaller turbocharged V6 engines to chase fuel numbers and horsepower on the sticker. One of the most popular is a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 found in America's best-selling truck, roughly the 2013 through 2016 builds especially. The problem lives in the timing system. These use variable cam timing parts called cam phasers, and they wear out. When they go, you hear it first on a cold start, a rattle that sounds like somebody dropped a handful of bolts into a coffee can. Most folks ignore it. Then it gets constant. The engine starts running rough, and if you keep driving, the timing chain itself can stretch and jump. Now you're not talking about a rattle, you're talking about internal engine damage. A cam phaser and timing job on one of these runs somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500, depending on how deep the shop has to go. And here's the part that stings. That rattle is documented. There are service bulletins telling technicians exactly how to address it, which means the maker knew the parts were failing early while buyers were being sold on power and towing. I've had guys come in convinced their truck just needed an oil change because it was a little noisy on startup. I put a stethoscope on it and told them the truth, and I watched their face fall because they'd just made a payment that morning. If you own one, listen on that first cold start of the day. That's when the rattle shows itself before the oil pressure builds. If you hear it, don't wait. Get it diagnosed while it's still just phasers, because once the chain lets go, that repair triples. And if you're shopping, start it cold yourself. Never let a seller warm it up before you get there. A pre-warmed engine on a private sale is a red flag every single time. So now you know 3 traps, but here's the bigger question that should be scaring you. Who decided that fuel economy numbers on a window sticker were worth building engines that eat themselves? Because that decision was made in a boardroom, and you're the one paying for it. Hold that thought, because it's about to come together. Let me climb higher up the ladder of pain, into the world of the 8-cylinder that everyone thinks is old reliable. There's a beloved V8, a 5.7-liter, in one of the big American half-tons and heavy duties. It has a legendary name and a huge fan base, and it has a lifter problem that turns that legend into a 4-figure nightmare. This engine also uses a cylinder deactivation setup, and the lifters that ride on the deactivating cylinders fail. When one collapses, it can wipe the lobe right off the camshaft. Metal shavings go through the engine. Now you're not just replacing a lifter, you're replacing the cam, the lifters, cleaning out the whole oiling system, and praying the debris didn't score the bearings. That job runs from $4,000 to $7,000, and I've seen quotes higher when the engine had to come out. The trucks from roughly 2019 forward seem especially prone to it, and I get at least one a month on a hook. The owner always says the same thing. It just started ticking one day, and by the time I got here, it was knocking. Here's the insider truth. When you deactivate cylinders to save a sip of fuel, you're adding complexity and stress to parts that used to be dead simple and last forever. The old truck engines didn't do this. They just ran. Somebody added this technology to hit a government fuel target and win a marketing bullet point, and the reliability you thought you were buying got quietly traded away. Now, I know some of you watching are sitting there realizing you already own one of these trucks. Maybe that ticking sound just crossed your mind. Maybe your stomach just dropped. This next part is for you specifically because it is not too late, and there are things you can do this weekend without a shop and without spending real money. First, change your oil more often than the manual says, and use the exact weight the maker specifies, not a heavier one somebody at the counter talked you into. These lifter and cam phaser failures are almost always tied to oil that got dirty, got low, or got too thick to flow through those tiny passages on a cold morning. Cheap insurance. Second, check your oil level yourself every 2 weeks. I mean it. Pull the dipstick, wipe it, check it. On the engines that burn oil, the damage happens in the silence between oil changes when nobody's looking. If you catch it a quart low, you just saved your camshaft. Third, listen on cold starts and pay attention to any new tick, rattle, or rough idle. Your ears are the earliest warning system you own, and they cost nothing. If something changes, get it looked at while it's cheap, not after it turns into shrapnel. And fourth, if your truck has that cylinder deactivation system, there are reputable ways to have it managed or disabled by an honest shop, and plenty of high-mileage owners swear it's the reason their engine is still alive. Ask a mechanic you trust, not the dealer who profits from the repair. Doing those four things won't undo a bad design, but it can buy you tens of thousands of miles and give you time to plan your next move instead of getting blindsided by a tow bill. And that right there, checking the oil yourself, listening on a cold start, knowing which engines eat their own lifters, is the same work I do when somebody hands me a vehicle identification number and asks if it's worth buying. I put all of it in writing, the full system I've built from documented repair records instead of commercials and forum chatter, so you can read reliability data like a mechanic, decode failure patterns by engine and by decade, run the real cost of owning a truck or a sport utility, and walk into a dealer's office with a negotiation protocol that keeps your money in your pocket. 437 pages and more of real content, yours forever, no subscription, and it goes far deeper than anything I can fit into one video. If you want the complete collection, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, pinned comment. Then come back here, because I'm about to show you the trucks that give you no warning whatsoever. That's the difference between being a victim and being in control. Therefore, let's talk about the trucks that don't give you any warning at all, because the next ones are where bad crosses into catastrophic. Let me tell you about the small diesel that promised the moon. There's a 3.0-liter diesel V6 offered in a popular half-ton for a few years in the mid to late 2010s, marketed as the best of both worlds. Big torque, 30 miles per gallon, the truck that would do everything and cost you nothing at the pump. The reality is one of the most expensive repair stories I deal with. These engines have exhaust recirculation coolers that fail, oil coolers that clog, and worst of all, timing components buried deep inside that were never meant to be a service item on a truck. When the timing setup fails on one of these, and it does, you can be looking at a bill north of $10,000 on a used truck that might only be worth $15,000. Think about that math. The repair costs almost as much as the vehicle. I had one come in, beautiful truck, guy babied it, and the check engine light turned into a no start over a single weekend. When I gave him the estimate, he actually laughed, the kind of laugh a man does when he's about to cry. He'd bought the fuel economy dream and it turned into the most expensive truck he ever owned per mile. The lesson here is bigger than one engine. When a maker crams complicated emissions and turbo diesel technology into a light-duty truck to chase a fuel number, they're building complexity that fails, and they're handing you the bill years later when nobody's watching. If you're shopping, a small diesel and a half-ton with a low price and high miles is one of the riskiest buys in the entire used market. Unless you've got the service records showing every recall and update done, I'd keep walking. But even that isn't the top of my list. Because the most catastrophic trucks I'm about to name are the ones people trust the most, sold by the brands people defend the hardest. This is where the betrayal really lives. Now I need to name what's really going on here, because you've earned the truth. For the last 15 years, the government tightened fuel economy rules, and instead of telling you honestly that a big truck uses fuel, the manufacturers went chasing every trick they could to hit those numbers on paper. Cylinder deactivation. Tiny turbo engines doing heavy-duty work, complex emission systems, 10-speed transmissions with more parts to break. Every one of those decisions looks great on a window sticker in a commercial, and every one of them added failure points that show up right after your warranty ends. That's not an accident. That's a business model. They get the sale and the fuel economy bragging rights, and you get the repair bill 3 years later. The marketing budget buries the reliability truth, and the finance office locks you into the payments before you ever hear the rattle. I'm not telling you this to make you angry for no reason. I'm telling you because once you see it, you can't be fooled by it, and you'll shop smarter than every other person on that lot. So let me get to the newest catastrophe, the one that shocked even me. There's a full-size truck from a brand with maybe the best reliability reputation in the entire world. For years, I told people this brand's big pickup was as close to bulletproof as a truck gets, and then they redesigned it. For the 2022 and 2023 model years, they dropped the old simple V8 and went to a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, an engine family known by its internal code as the V35A. And here's what happened. Machining debris got left inside some of these engines during manufacturing. That debris circulates through the oil, damages the main bearings, and the engine can fail completely, sometimes with almost no warning, sometimes at highway speed. This got so bad the maker issued a recall covering over 100,000 of these trucks. Let me say that again because this is the buried number I promised you. More than 100,000 full-size trucks from the most trusted name in the business, recalled because the engines could fail from debris left inside them at the factory. On brand new trucks. On the pride of the lineup. I've seen owners who bought these expecting the legendary reliability, only to be told their engine needed to be replaced entirely under recall and to wait for parts and availability. Imagine trusting a name your whole life and getting handed that. That is how you know reputation alone means nothing anymore. Even the best can build a bad one, and they'll sell it to you with a straight face. If you're looking at one of these newer trucks, you must verify the recall work is complete with documentation, not just a verbal promise. Get the vehicle identification number and confirm the engine was inspected or replaced. Do not take anyone's word for it. So if the most trusted truck in the world could betray its own buyers, where does that leave you? What on earth is actually safe to buy? That's the question everything has been building to, and now I'm going to give you the answer nobody in the industry wants sitting in your head. Here's the truth that got buried, and here's the honest source that kept it alive. Before that same trusted brand chased fuel numbers and turbochargers, they built a full-size truck with a 5.7-liter V8, and the engine wore the code 3URFE. It powered their big pickup from roughly 2007 all the way through 2021. No cylinder deactivation eating the lifters, no twin turbos to blow, no cam phasers rattling on cold mornings. No tiny complicated diesel with a $10,000 timing job hiding inside. Just a big, simple, naturally aspirated V8 with a timing chain built to last the life of the truck and a transmission to match. Go read the high-mileage owner forums and the long-term reliability threads yourself. You'll find these trucks running past 200,000 miles, 300,000 miles, some north of 400,000 on the original engine and transmission, with nothing but fluid changes and brakes. Mechanics like me quietly tell our own families to buy these. They don't top the fuel economy charts. They were never the flashiest, but they refused to die. And that's exactly why the industry moved on from it. An engine that lasts 20 years and never needs a major repair, doesn't sell parts, doesn't drive trade-ins, and doesn't hit the fuel targets a boardroom cares about. So they replaced a legend with a turbocharged experiment and handed you the risk. The truth existed the whole time. The profit chasers buried it under new model marketing. But the owners who kept these trucks running kept the truth alive. And now you have it. If you want a full-size truck that won't wreck you, hunt down one of those 5.7 V8 trucks with the 3URFE, check the service records, look underneath for rust since that's their only real enemy, and buy it with confidence. It may be the smartest used truck money you ever spend. It's not on a billboard, it's not the newest thing on the lot, it's just the one that lasts, and now you know its name. Let me tie one more thread for the folks who love an American V8, because I don't want you thinking only one brand ever got it right. The older, simpler pushrod V8 trucks from before all this deactivation technology, the ones from the early 2000s with the plain engines and the 4-speed and 6-speed transmissions, are often far more reliable than the fancy new stuff sitting next to them on the lot. Simple lasts. Complexity fails. Write that on your hand before you go shopping. And here's the mindset that protects you better than any warranty ever will. When a salesman brags about fuel economy on a big truck, hear a warning, not a feature. When he brags about horsepower from a tiny turbo engine, ask yourself what got sacrificed to make that number. When the price on a used diesel looks too good, understand that the previous owner might be dumping it right before a catastrophic bill. The deal that looks best is often the trap that's set the deepest. I learned all of this the hard way, and so did the good people who rolled into my bay on flatbeds over the years. The contractor with the diesel that cracked, the family man whose trusted brand engine failed from factory debris, The guy who ignored a cold start rattle until his timing chain jumped. Every one of them trusted a badge, a commercial, or a salesman instead of the simple truth. And every one of them wished somebody had told them first. Today, that somebody is me, and that someone hearing it in time is you. So before you sign, before you trade in, before you let anyone rush you, remember what these trucks actually cost once the warranty light goes dark. Remember that the fanciest technology on the sticker is often the first thing to break. And remember that the truck built simple and built to last is almost never the one they're pushing hardest. Here's the feeling I want you to walk away with. You just dodged a mistake that could have cost you $5,000, $8,000, even $10,000 and a year of heartache, and you dodged it before you ever handed over a dime. That's not luck. That's you refusing to be sold a lemon, refusing to trust a badge over the facts, and doing the homework that the average buyer never bothers to do. That's the kind of driver who keeps their money and keeps their truck running long after the neighbors are back at the dealership signing for their next payment. Now I want to hear from you, because this community runs on real experience, not marketing. Tell me this. Are you running one of those 5.7 V8 trucks with the 3U RFE, and how many miles are on it? Or did you get burned by a cam phaser rattle, a collapsed lifter, or a diesel that cost more to fix than it was worth? Drop it in the comments right now. Tell me the truck, the engine, the repair bill, and where in the country you're watching from. I read them, and your story might be the exact warning that saves the next person scrolling by. If you're the kind of driver who refuses to get burned, who wants the honest truth before the money leaves your hands, this is your crowd. Stick around with us, because we look out for each other here in a way no dealership ever will. And keep an eye out, because next I'm going to break down the exact used transmission that's quietly failing in millions of late-model trucks, the shudder you can feel through the seat, and the simple fluid check that tells you in 30 seconds whether the one you're looking at is about to cost you $4,000. You do not want to buy your next truck until you've heard that one. Drive smart, check the oil, and never let them rush you. Before you go, I promised you the hidden gem truck and its bulletproof engine code, and that's waiting inside the Garage Bench Club. In there, you can ask me your own question about your truck, your situation, and a real person, me, answers you, not a machine. You won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen and cancel anytime with one click. Now that you know which trucks to avoid, let me show you the ones that just keep going. The pickup's running strong past 300,000 miles. That one's starting right here, so stay with me.